ask everybody to rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Girls, do you have family with you here tonight or friends that you want to introduce? You did a great job. Thanks for making it all the way in here to sing to us. Go ahead.
Madam
Good
President,
news.
Madam President and members of the board, it's my pleasure. We love doing this. We have great students. We have great support professionals. We have great teachers in the district, and we have great volunteers. And but I do. Is it on? Okay.
It's on.
I'll do this a little closer. So that was great, girls. Thank you. That's the national. It's hard to sing. I'm afraid I would forget the words. You know. Anyway, I do want to tell you that not only do we have great people in our classrooms, but a quality school has to have great leadership. It has to have a great principal. And I promised myself I wasn't going to get emotional. So I consider Mr. Spindler, this is his last board meeting probably with us in an official capacity as an administrator for the district. At the end of the school year, Mr. Spindler is retiring after 30 years. And when I came here, he was at Copper Canyon, a very well respected and very knowledgeable administrator. He's been a teacher and administrator. He agreed to go out and has done a wonderful job taking a struggling school out in Wendover, and has commuted and loved the kids, and spent a lot of times on a little cot in the back of the stage, you know, kind of a thing, because he was away from his home and his family, and because he really cares about those kids in Wendover. So I know they're going to miss him. I want you to know he is a top quality school administrator. We're going to miss him. We wish him well in his retirement and thank him for everything.
Thanks. Going here next.
Yeah.
Okay. Super. Well, after that, you're so kind. Thank you.
You can actually
You can turn the podium.
Don't have this one.
There's a lazy
Some other
Susan inside of
technology.
that.
So anyway, I really appreciate, like I say, the kind words that Scott shared, but really why we're here tonight is to recognize some of the people at Wendover High School, and we've brought in a student and a volunteer and one of our staff members as well. And I just appreciate the fact that, you know, for an opportunity like this, because for people to come in from Wendover and spend time, it actually takes 3 hours, an hour and a half each way for these guys to come in and spend a little bit of time and receive some recognition that they greatly deserve. And the first person we want to recognize is Amanda Murphy. So Amanda, come on up. I know sometimes the criteria for recognizing students is given to us, and it's kind of focused around students who tend to struggle a little bit, students who've overcome challenges, and I really didn't go that direction with this nomination. When I got to Wendover 3 years ago, met Amanda, great girl, and she just kind of tends to fly underneath the radar. She works hard, she gets up every morning, attends seminary, early morning as it is in town here as well. But she's involved with cheerleading and volleyball and basketball and track and golf and all the while taking, concurrent enrollment classes and getting ready for college. She has a great and wonderful set of parents, both Jared and Cecilia, and they support their kids in any way that they can. And I just, as I thought about, who should we really recognize? It's people like Amanda, too, that help make our school a great school, because they are the unsung heroes that are helping the other students at the same time in ways that we don't necessarily know. With whether it's reading or math, Amanda has many talents academically and as well as the extracurricular things that she does. And so we didn't want at Wendover High School, I talked with Mrs. Fillion, she's here as well, our instructional coach, and Mr. Bryant, our vice principal, and just felt like, that would be a good nomination, because there are people day in and day out that work hard, or they're doing the right things, and they're helping make Wendover, like I say, a great school of excellence. We've got a ways to go still in that journey, but we're making great progress and growth with it. And so we just wanted to let Amanda know how much we really appreciate her and how proud we are of her. So thank you.
So,
Oh, yeah. So we have a gift certificate for you that should be there on the podium. And then do you have people here with you? Did you bring some family or friends with you? If you'd like to introduce them, we'd love that. And then we'll ask you to just walk along so we can shake your hand too.
Well, Cecilia and Alyssa Murphy.
Awesome.
And Amanda's a junior, so we do have her for one more year. Also, we want to recognize
Cheerleader.
It's hard without the rest of the crew, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Amanda. Also, we'd like to recognize one of our staff members, Tammy Wadsworth. Tammy, come on up here, will you? I think Tammy has been through 17 principals, has at least 35 years of service at Wendover High School, actually dating back to 1967 and 68, she was telling me she started. And then they moved into Salt Lake. I think Glenn went to school for a little while and finished up some college in town, moved back to Wendover, and Tammy has been the secretary at Wendover High School ever since 1984, actually. And so when I first got to Wendover, there was no doubt about who the boss was. And it was not me, kind of thing. But honestly, Tammy has great soft skills. I know that everybody in the community is proud of Tammy. They love Tammy and appreciate everything that she's done for not just Wendover High School, but the community as well. And Tammy's talking about retiring as well. And so I just thought, there's no way we can get out the door without at least getting some kind of recognition for Tammy. The roles and responsibilities and duties that she has at that school, not just in the short little bit of time that I've been there, but throughout the course of time at Wendover High School, honestly just amaze me. She is the glue at Wendover High School that keeps things flowing through the transition periods that we have, and she'll be greatly missed at Wendover High School. But I think she's kind of getting to the point too where it's kind of like, I think I'm going to go if you go kind of business. But anyway, I just wanted to let you folks know, and all of the board members as well, that Tammy is a fantastic employee in the Tooele County School District, and there's no way that we would ever be able to replace her out at Wendover High School. So we just wanted to get a little bit of recognition for her and for everything that she's done there and let her know how much we appreciate her. So, thank you. You bet. You got to shake hands. So.
We can't get along without the secretaries. They gotta take care of all of us.
Really 17 principals.
Good work.
Can you name them all?
No. It is a hard job.
We have a gift from the foundation also for you. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have Diane Whitback, who is a volunteer at our school. Diane, would you come up, please? Absolutely. I'm just so impressed with Diane. I met Diane actually, I think, about a year and a half ago. And I met her through Carolyn Bushman. Carolyn's here tonight as well. She's one of our math teachers and drove everybody in tonight because we couldn't all fit in the car. But anyway, Carolyn introduced me to Diane, and Diane comes to our school very, very regularly, consistently, helps with math. She has had a lot of challenges and struggles in her life as well. Diane has had cancer and has overcome that, still volunteering. Her mother actually just passed away last week, and so we're lucky that she's here tonight. She just got back from Chicago. Diane has been in the community for many, many years, has raised her family there. In fact, her daughter's here this evening and has graduated from Wendover High School as well. Moved away and moved back to Wendover, so that's kind of been a nice treat for Diane. Besides volunteering at our school, Diane's husband as well has some health issues, and so she's gone back to work. I forget which casino, but at the Montego Bay. And actually, she'll be working tonight at 11 o'clock when she gets finished here. That's how dedicated she is with helping. And so Diane has a real flexible schedule as far as at the school. And but she's in Carolyn Bushman's math classes at least 3 to 4 times a week. And that fluctuates between mornings and after-school tutoring. I just don't know what it's going to take for Diane to slow down. Hopefully, she'll be there for a long time because the kids love her as well. She's very patient and kind and knowledgeable about math. She's a real asset to Carolyn as well, and the help that she provides her in the class also. A couple of the girls had written some notes about Diane, and I brought a couple of them. The first one says, "Dear Miss Whitbeck, I recognize that I don't let you know very often, but you're a very special person in my life. If it wasn't for you and your patience in helping me and guiding me in school and in life, it would be more difficult. I wouldn't be where I am today. Mrs. Whitbeck, I need you to be very, very strong. I believe in you like you believe in me. And you are such an amazing person with a beautiful soul and personality. Your smile helps me feel safe and secure, so don't let that beautiful smile dim. If you need a friend, I will be here like you are to me when I need help. Thank you for all you do." And that's from Sarah Correa. So,
Thank you.
you bet. And then just another one, if I could, from Alex Rodriguez. Alex had written, "Hey, I appreciate everything that you've done for me. You've honestly taught me so much. When I need help with something, I know I can come to you for help. You're such a great person. Whenever I see and get happy, I remember that it's from you and from the elementary school where you helped me also. You're one of my favorite elementary teachers. I hope things get better for you, and I care about you." So I think that pretty much sums up and demonstrates from kids how they feel about Diane. I know that we love her and appreciate her and hope that she is able to continue to help serve as she would like to. So thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
It'll be painless.
We have that, we have the gift for you from the foundation also. I know. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to everybody from Wendover that's made the trek in to support these great people. You guys have a great school out there. We were recently out there for a school visit, and I was so impressed with the kids and how respectful they were and what hard workers they were. So it's always fun to go out and visit. Thanks. Next on our recognition, we have the Education Foundation here. Ed Dalton will invite you up. I think we're recognizing a birthday, right? Awesome.
Yeah, I can just turn this, how about like this?
Okay.
Oh, we're like this. Hey, thank you very much for permitting us to be a part of your program tonight, and just a short part of it. But I didn't want this week and month to go by without taking a moment to just reflect back, because it was on April 10th, 2010, when I remember being in at the Department of Commerce, filing the Articles of Incorporation for the formation of the Tooele County School District Education Foundation. And in a board meeting at that time, we talked about a little analogy that we were all going to hop on a river raft, push it off the shore, and head down the Grand Canyon, not knowing where we were going or what we might encounter along the way. Now, 7 years later, we have a little better idea of what that is. And so it's kind of hard to throw a party, but we wanted to at least take a minute to give to everyone here tonight a gift from us to them to help celebrate our birthday, okay? We have a little birthday card that reminds us that the school bell rings, its chimes sublime. It calls to learn, to teach, to reach, to climb, and we've added another word, and to thank. And we're here again to thank you so much for the support and the help, and in so many ways I could not list them all. We are fulfilling the mission that we were created for. We're growing in a variety of ways, and it's been a pretty remarkable 7 years. We also thought, well, to have a party, you've got to have a party banner, right? Okay. And our friends at Stampin' Up! Gave us these party banner kits. So before you leave tonight, just outside the door, there's a great big stack of these, and if you'll all please take one. And either for yourself or a couple or the kids or at school. In fact, Clint, would you take 3 or 4 cases of them? And go out and Wendover, have a wonderful celebration for these wonderful people. There's where a party should be going on out at Wendover High School. But we feel that we're very fortunate in so many ways to be sharing in these good things. And so tonight I also have here a check for $1,967 to help pay for all the cases of tangerines that were delivered to all the elementary schools today, so that every student could taste a fruit that they hardly ever get to taste, and to learn a little bit about it, and enjoy a gift from, well, not from the foundation. This was made possible because of several businesses that all helped pay for the fruit. This is the seventh month, seven's a good number tonight, that this is being done. We'll do another in April now. Well, April is that, and then May again, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for the school year. But it's been a wonderful project to do too. So, with that, I want to walk along and give you a birthday card. It's okay if I shake your hand too? Thanks. Seven? Sharon, because you were on that original founding committee. Julia, you were there too. Scott, thank you. This is Manzione.
Thank you for all your work.
You're welcome. Carol, you were too.
Awesome.
Yep, Alex, sure your help. Kathy,
Thank you. Thanks for all of the to the foundation, all the board.
Should we sing?
Do you want?
Should we
Do
sing
you need a
happy-
picture?
Hey, sure. Kendall, could we?
I'm not
Did
gonna
you want us to
sing.
too?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sing. Do you want me to go down?
Photo op. We'll put the birthday card by it too.
Where's Marie tonight?
How about the check to you and the card to him? Thank you very much. One more. Okay, thanks.
Okay, next on our agenda is patron comments. We have 2 patrons signed up to speak. We'll give you about 3 minutes. And first that was scary. First we have Doug Snow and then Emily Jones. And you do have to still say your name into the microphone just so it's in the minutes with your comments.
All right. Can you hear me there?
Yep.
My name's Doug Snow. Man, it feels cool. Odd sense of power up here now.
You kind of
New
just want to
podium.
turn
Yeah,
it
look
just
at
for
this.
fun. Yeah.
So,
You want one
If-
of those for your classroom?
yeah, I do. But I tend to wander. But I just want to be brief. And let me just mention, Madam Chairman, just these girls. And then what I just saw here. Isn't that really cool? It says to learn. I learned something from the 3 students that sang, the 2 or 3 of you.
Two.
The 2 that sang tonight on the national anthem. This Thursday, we're in my class going over the War of 1812 and Francis Scott Key. And rather than play the anthem, I know that in our band and choir section, there are some girls, students, that I'm going to invite to sing that anthem instead. So you just help me. They say, well, you can never measure the extent of one's influence and example. You just help make me a better teacher by involving the classroom community, and I know those girls will do this, and why didn't I think of that sooner? Thank you very much. That was beautiful, and you just helped me, so I'm really glad you're here tonight. And Mr. Dalton, this idea of thanks, it's catchy because that's why I'm here tonight. One of the main reasons, and though I'm a lone voice tonight, but I do represent many, many teachers and Superintendent Rogers and members of the board. We're grateful that everyone came together in our behalf and offered us that, you call it the retention bonus, but to us, it was recognition in a real tangible way. And I know many of us teachers, if they haven't brought that forward to you in verbal recognition or email, we're very, very grateful for that. It's said that words tell, but actions step forward and lead, and it goes a great way for public perception, for the image of synergy between district personnel, members of the board, and teachers to help look out for our needs in very real way. And that's some way that we can stand up and recognize amongst ourselves in our conversations. Too often we focus on maybe the negative or what's wrong, and trip over the very right and correct means and moves that are made. And that is certainly one of them. And I am very grateful on behalf of my family and fellow teachers. I know of at least a few dozen that agree with me that way in conversation. And if I was a little more organized, I would probably should have had them here tonight. But it goes along in the spirit of what Mr. Dalton brought forward today. And additionally, to members of the board, I know that many, many members of the community, as you evaluated the healthcare compensation, if I could term it that way, and when you went through that process, I think that went a very, very long way to promoting synergy amongst members of the community, representation from members of the board, and everyone that's employed by Tooele School District. And these are good things, and Tooele is about good things. And we need to make point and reference that. And so I'm happy to see that this little testament of gratitude is logged in somewhere, because we are aware and we are grateful. And that's the extent of my remarks tonight. So
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you. Emily.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Used to being able to pull us. Okay, good evening, members of the board. I am Emily Jones. Due to the light nature that it's been today, I wish my comments could be as light as those that have been brought forth already tonight. But I wish to address you as a concerned parent tonight. Recently, I have found that there are areas of the Tooele County School District policy on multimedia content that has been neglected. I became aware of the situation after my child approached me stating that he was uncomfortable with a film he was shown in one of his high school classes. He said it was due to the bad language, how they always talked of sex, and that they were wearing clothes, though just barely. I researched the film on commonsensemedia.org and was shocked to see that the film contained frequent language, including 3 F words, frequent drug use, including alcohol, pot, and cocaine, as well as frequent sexuality, including something I won't mention because there's minors in here, strip poker, one-night stands, and women walking around or dancing while scantily dressed, and this was shown in a high school classroom. The specific issue has been addressed at a school level, and I have also contacted members of the district, some that are here as well tonight. However, I wish to bring it to the attention of the whole board that there are areas of the district policy on the multimedia content that is not being adhered to. I specifically wish to have it noted that per section C4, B, C, and D of the Tooele County School District Policy of Multimedia Content, it reads, multimedia specialists shall maintain a current list of licensed movies for use within their buildings. All educator requests to show movies and videos not on the district or school sanctioned list shall be approved quarterly at the school level under the direction of the school administrator. And that when an educator who wants to show a movie or video not on a district or school approved list, it must ensure that certain criteria will be met, including that there is no profanity, sexual content, prejudicial stereotypes, or violence in the multimedia clip or movie, that the movie must be the best available source to accomplish the educational objectives, and that the student, teacher, and community's best interest is kept in mind in viewing the particular movie. After searching the district and school websites for a list of approved films by the district and not finding one, I contacted the district offices in search of a current list of licensed movies for use within their buildings. In the end, I have discovered that there is no such list provided by either the district or the school. By neglecting to have the approved district and school sanctioned media lists, teachers are allowed to show media based on their own interpretation of what is acceptable, even when the films may inadequately meet educational objectives and have inappropriate content. I request today that an approved district media list be created and made available on school and district websites as soon as reasonably possible. A current list is essential to provide our children with the best media available that also reflects the standards of our community and adheres to the guidelines stated in the district's own multimedia policy. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Thank you. All right. And we can talk about that in a future meeting. Okay, next on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes the minutes, expenditure, revenue, and disbursement reports, personnel decisions, an amended trust land plan, 150-mile contest surplus, and request for proposal for furniture for Old Mill Elementary, and a bid award for Tooele High School track. Thanks for coming. Drive home safely.
Thank you.
Don't forget your banners. Okay, is there a motion in regards
Could we remove, could we take 5.11 and discuss it in a minute?
5.1? 5.1?
11.
Oh,
5.11.
5.11. Okay. That's the vote. That's the vote.
Oh, fine. How about the one right before, 5.10?
The bid? Sure.
Yeah, the track.
Okay. Is there a motion in regards to the consent calendar, with the exception of 5.10?
I move that we approve the consent calendar with taking out 5.10.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Carol and seconded by Scott to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 5.10. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Lark, you're getting the motions and the seconds, right? Are you? Okay, thanks. Because I'm not, sort of. Okay, 5.10, the bid award for Tooele High School track. Mr. Bryan.
I'm just looking at the notes from the attachment. I know that it was supposed to be open today, and I see that there's not a specific contractor identified in this. So how are we awarding? I guess I'm questioning how we're awarding a bid unless, what am I missing here, folks? How
Steve?
can we award a bid to
Steve.
someone who,
Let's
is
invite
not named.
Steve to the podium. Good point.
What we were bidding out is subcontractors. We actually awarded this as a CMGC to Hughes General Contractors in prior biddings. And so we're bidding out the subcontractor part of that bid. And so with that, we was trying to get that done for today's meeting, but they had a fiber line cut, and we was not able to get those subcontractors' bids in. Not all of them came in. We have some of them, so we have a pretty good feel for where we're at, the budget-wise on them. We rescheduled those bids to open on next Tuesday, so we can get the final detail of that. Knowing our tight window that we have to get this in, to get this project done, we wanted to get approval if we could to move forward as soon as we get those final numbers.
I guess my question is though, how can we award a bid without knowing who we're awarding it to?
Can we award it for a dollar amount, or what? What are you exactly proposing, I guess?
Well, I propose that we award it to continue moving forward with Hughes General Contractors as a CMGC.
Oh, okay.
And then we will be, give or take a little bit of that number, but we'll be pretty close to that number on the project. So it's confusing, it's hard. With not having another board meeting for another month, it was hard to know exactly how to present
But
this.
haven't we already awarded the project to Hughes?
Correct.
So do we really have to award a subcontractor if we've awarded the
We typically
project?
have brought them back for one last final approval on it. So.
I'm okay with it as it is, but go ahead,
Oh,
Julia.
so I was just saying, are you saying that whichever subcontractors you pick we're approving them right now?
We're not approving any subcontractors right now because I don't know who they all are right at this point.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, board, but my personal opinion is that we awarded the contract to Hughes General Contractor, so you guys can do your subcontracting as necessary, as long as it meets the parameters of the bid we've awarded.
Yeah, and I wanted you to have the numbers as to where we're at with that project, with the combination of the track. It's the complete track assembly, it's the concession building, and it's all the sidewalk and fence, and it includes demo of all the buildings with the exception of the ticket booth on that high school
But
football
still under the umbrella of the small projects that we
It is,
awarded.
still under that, and it's under the bond funds to do that, so.
Does anybody want to oppose that decision?
I just want to comment.
Go ahead and comment.
Just remind board members that we really have quite a bit of problem with the concessions because we don't have running water and we're required to do
Yeah.
that. We've been written up several times. And so in order to plan for a team room and make that track last, which is now post-tension concrete is the plan, we had to redesign some of the buildings and actually move the restrooms. And so, but it is pretty necessary when we're doing that and we're tearing that track up to go ahead and fix the problems we've had with storage and with concessions and restrooms.
Yeah, we might as well do it all while it's all a
Yeah.
mess. Yeah, we don't want to wait till later.
Yeah, and with that, we got some tight pinch points with putting the sidewalk around it. So the current building that is the track storage, there's not enough room to keep that. So we incorporated extra space in the new concession building to move some of that storage that way. And so we've grown in scope on this project and it happens.
Happens.
Every time to do that. So.
I think you're good to go.
It will be, the track will completely be fenced like the one at Grantsville is, so that we can do a little bit better job of crowd control for
control.
those games, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, we end up with a couple of small retaining walls. They'll be incorporated in the fence on the north end and on the south end. The fence will be the retaining wall, and then one end it'll drop down to the sidewalk, the other end it comes up to the sidewalk. So we're able to get those all in and make it look like it'll be looking very nice with it.
Good. Does that help, Mr. Bryan, with your
Yeah,
concern? Are you
I
good?
just was concerned that,
Yeah.
well, like you, I'm not sure
Good
that we
point.
really need to award a bid. It sounds like we already have, but I was just concerned that we were awarding a contract.
To a non-contractor?
Yeah, I was just,
Unknown
I don't
contractor.
want to slow the process down, but I want to make
Yeah.
sure we're appropriate and legal in that process. And I,
It is confusing.
Yeah,
Can I
So-
ask a question of clarification then?
sure, go ahead.
So next month, when this is final and we'll actually have the list of subcontractors, would you like it on the agenda just as an information item in the consent, or do you just want to leave it off altogether with your motion that it's now approved?
I think it's,
Yeah.
I thought it was
We don't
approved
need
when we
to
see it
approved
off.
Hughes.
Okay,
We're good.
All right.
okay, thank you.
Thanks. You've got a lot going on, Steve. Thanks. I lost where my place, sorry. Okay, 6.1, Business Administrator Report. Lark.
Okay. Got a few items in there, the one that you probably had for a week and then one
Yeah.
just a few days into it. But just the one in the week, if I haven't told you this yet, then here's I should have told you, story. But a little while back, we have typically invested, and everybody in here, when I say PTIF, knows I'm talking about the Public Treasures Investment Fund. In our financial records, that's where we've invested all our money in. Oh yeah, thanks, Jim, for bringing that up for the public. You can see it there. We have typically invested all our money in the PTIF account. That's what a lot of districts just do for convenience. It's quick, it's liquidity. We can get cash out of it, and it earns some interest on it. With that being said, we were approached by a couple of different entities saying that some larger school districts have looked at investing some of those funds, and so as we talked to them, to be specific, they were Morton and Company and Zions Bank. Zions was making a little bit more at the time. They call it Zions Capital Investors, I should say. It's actually a division of Zions Bank. And so we had some money that had been sitting in two particular PTIF accounts that we hadn't touched for years. It had sat there and earned interest, and our thought was, well, if they're earning interest, why don't we see if we can invest that in this Zions account and see if it'll make a little more interest. And so long story short, this is what we were given. We did that at the beginning of this fiscal year, so that's why it wouldn't be on last year's financial statements. They will be in this year, and we just had a breakout for the first 6 months that it was in there, and I wanted to show you that. What I happen to like about this, without getting into the details, if you can see, is the bottom line there. They approximated what we would have earned in the PTIF account, earning their investments, which you see in the second column there, the Utah PTIF, and then the account that we had set up. You can see that it generated $9,604 according to their calculations over those 6 months, in addition to what the PTIF would have earned, if I made that point. So just wanted to show you that we're trying to do our best to invest those funds that we do have, and hey, a little bit of interest here or there can help out. So that was our intent. Any questions on that? Questions, concerns? Good. The next two is I know Kathy was here, and I ought to just let her tell you about it, a brief synopsis, but save that. I'll be brief and say we met with the actually we invited anybody who wanted to come into the boardroom, but specifically TEA and TESPA representatives came, and I wanted to give you the slides that we presented to them. Two files there. One was just the slide, a PowerPoint that we showed everybody, and the second one was a summary that that I like to use. And since Jim's on that, I'll show you the summary. You can actually go to the last page there, Jim. It's kind of a summary we've used for years to show what we can negotiate. And that bottom page, as you can see, what I like to take is the mid-year, and we're currently in mid-year fiscal year 17 report. they also, after the legislative session, give us the legislative 18 report, and I like to compare those differences. Where are we higher, where are we lower? You can go down there line by line. We won't get hung up in the weeds, but I just want to point out, if you go to the very bottom, we're getting an additional 2.6, you might as well round that up to $2.7 million in state funding from the mid-year 17 to the 18 legislative estimates at this point. And so, of course, we make tweaks to that. So that bottom number in yellow is what we showed them. We felt like would be a good basis to start with new state money for the fiscal year 18 following the legislative session. You see, and that's 100% we've been talking about on the table. We've wanted to stress that this year we're looking at salaries. That's what we've been hearing. That's what we've been saying. And so we showed 100% of that. And so that bottom yellow line you'll see on the front page is what carried forward. But any questions on those summaries or those slides?
It's good news.
I have additional
Yes,
comment.
go ahead.
So I want to go back to something I appreciate Doug said. You know, it's important for us to walk the talk. And you as a board, one of our 5 goals that's up here is employee compensation. I'm not going to rehearse everything that's happened in the media, but you definitely know that Jordan and some of the other districts are making a move towards and being as aggressive as they possibly can towards teacher salaries, given the teacher shortage. And we intend to do that as well, and that's why on that recap sheet that we show 100% of that. Even though we don't spend 100% of our money on salaries, it's more in the 86, 88 range. That kind of fluctuates. But we intend to do a better job of being more competitive. Don't want to see our teachers going to Wasatch Front because they're reimbursed. It's not all about money, but then again, it is about money and being competitive. And we value our, there's 2 parts. There's recruitment. It's pretty hard to go out and recruit when, you know, Granite District or another district says, yeah, we start teachers at 40,000, and we say, we start at, you know, lower than that. And then retention. And we've got some great dedicated employees here that have done a good job. So we intend to be pretty creative and pretty aggressive with employee compensation because that's consistent with the 5 goals that we set as a board on our strategic plan. So, you know, just wait. You'll have to wait and see through the negotiations process, but I think our employees are going to be pleasantly surprised. So,
Are we budgeting based on, I see no growth there in red. Are we going to go with no growth this year due to the opening of the charter school, or am I
That was the
ahead of the
logic
game?
there. And there's been some talk, so I'll leave it at that. The superintendent can talk about that a little bit later. But at this point, no growth.
we have
Right.
some
Based
on the charter
ideas
school.
around growth that we might be able to.
Right, I've read the board packet, but
Yeah.
we're basically going.
But with the charter school coming in and the growth within our county is probably going to be a wash because that's 700 students. And so we are a growing district, but we're opening Old Mill, and of course Bonneville is going to open as well. So
Any other questions from board members? It's good news. Thanks. We like it when you present good news. It's always better.
you're not allowed to present bad news, so that I just.
Well, he has presented bad news before. I'm just saying it's better. Okay, 6.2 is School Climate Annual Report, and we have Julie Spindler and Kara Strain here. Thank you for your work.
And we thank you for your support. Thanks to all of you and Superintendent for really being so supportive of the School Climate Transformation Grant and everything that we've done with positive behavior supports and interventions in our schools. We really appreciate everything that you have done to help us and support us, including adding to the vision of what the grant originally was written about and for. We continue to expand on what we've done. So the next slide will show you some of the new things that we've done this year. The first big thing is that we started our Parents as Partners series. This came out of Superintendent's mind and his idea of some things that really we wanted to engage parents about issues that were coming up not only in the school but also in our community. So we partnered with lots of our community partners, including the Tooele City Police Department, Tooele Communities That Care, the Health Department, to provide different series. And we've done one a month since January. 1 month we did a couple of them, but we've addressed sexting. We appreciate the Tooele City Police Department really talking to our parents, as well as going to all of our junior highs in our district to talk about how to prevent problems with their cell phones and with media and social media. So that was a great partnership. We had about 70 parents at that event. And as you know, sometimes it's hard to get parents, but as you can see from our numbers, we have seen about 600 parents at our different events since January, which is huge. We really feel really positive and good, and we've gotten really good feedback. I've been to most of those events, and I don't see the same faces either, so which is really, really nice, and I think that it really gives our district a thumbs up when it comes to being partners with parents as well. Our next piece that was new this year, if you'll go back, Jim, is the CHAMPS program. And I was invited by Matt Jackson and the special ed department. They're bringing this to our district with our elementary schools starting out. But basically what CHAMPS is really a proactive, positive approach for classroom management. And when the facilitator came, we've heard a lot about PBIS and how it's really about school-wide interventions and having rules and positive things happening within our school. But CHAMPS really takes it to the classroom level, which is really nice, and gives teachers an opportunity to think about, okay, during when I have group time, this is what it looks like. This is what it should sound like in our classroom, because sometimes kids don't know about, when I transition from reading to group work, what does that look like and what should it sound like? And so having teachers and students identify what that looks like and sounds like has really been a positive. Most of the instructional coaches will be rolling that out in our elementary schools this coming year. They've already started some of that planning, and we're letting them do that in their own schools, so that because every school looks different. So that's been a really positive, and I appreciate the partnership with our own department within our district. So thanks for letting us be part of that. And then also our department wrote a gang prevention and intervention grant. There was $2,800 that was awarded to our district to really look at our district policy when it comes to gang prevention, to put together a committee, send them to the state gang conference, and come back to do some teaching with our school employees and even some of our students. So there's also some funding that's coming up that we will be applying for to maybe look at programming for students who are gang involved, but also to prevent gang involvement as well. Some of the oldies but goodies on the next slide. Some of the things that we continue to do and to capitalize on are QPR efforts with suicide prevention. Since April of 2014, we've trained over 3,500 of our community members, which is pretty awesome. And we've seen real declines in suicide throughout our community, not just our school-aged population, but all populations. We've received to date, today, it says 170 because that's what it was when I turned it into Diane, but we got about 5 more referrals since then. So we have about 175 students that we have been paying for mental health services, which is just awesome. And parents are really, really appreciative of this opportunity. And one thing that I really appreciate too is that this has afforded school administrators to be able to talk to parents about mental health and mental illness and to help get them help. So we really are happy about that. And many of these referrals, about half of them, are insured. These parents have insurance, so the grant doesn't even need to kick in, but it has afforded the ability to be able to have that conversation with parents, which is great. just this school year. Our PBIS efforts, with that money, we felt like because principals were really boots on the ground, delivering this to their staff, that we took 8 principals this year to the National PBIS Conference, and they have run with it. And I know that you've visited a lot of buildings, and you've probably seen those school expectations and what it looks like and why we have those. So we really appreciate our administrative support there. The SHARP survey was administered in March, and we will have the results of that coming up at the beginning of the next school year. We also, again, are partnering with the AmeriCorps program. We have 16 of our schools participating in the check-in, check-out. So and that really addresses tardiness and attendance, which we know kids need to be in school. Our Hope Squads we have Hope Squads in every secondary school, and 2 of our schools actually have a high school class that's what they do, is talk about suicide prevention and how they will intervene and help students in their schools. And then, of course, our Second Step program that's K through 8. Every student is doing that. One thing that is new is Tooele City really felt like we were not recognizing teachers. And so they wanted to kind of roll out a pilot in our Tooele City elementary schools to highlight one teacher in every grade in every school this year who is a champion for Second Step, and that has been a huge positive for us, because a lot of times teachers, they're recognized but not always. And so it's been a really nice piece that we really appreciate that partnership. So the next slide talks about the Safe UT app that we rolled out last April. And you can see that the upper left hand, you can see what the referrals were for. We had 125 tips that were sent to us through the Safe UT app. It goes to the University of Utah, then they send the information back to the school administrator and people at the district office. And just as we suspected, suicide and bullying were our top 2 referrals. I can tell you that many of these referrals have been really, really great referrals, that our administrators get that email and they go in and intervene and see what's going on and help and stop problems from happening before they happen, because students are our eyes and ears. So the Safe UT app has been huge for us. Of course, most of our referrals have come from high school students. About 47% of them have been high school, 34% from the junior high, and then 19% from elementaries. But we are really happy with how that partnership is going as well with uni. So Kara has the rest.
Okay, so before we switch to the data slides, I just wanted to kind of mention that our students value data, and they use it to drive their decisions. We were on a family trip, and our kids had a lot of fun photos to share, and I was saying, why aren't you posting this to social media? And they said, Mom, you don't post it till like 8 p.m. That's when you get the highest rate of likes or whatever. And I said, oh yeah, well, I get 100% rate response all the time. Like all 15 of my people like all of my photos all the time. And we had this discussion, and well, wait, Mom, but I have 1,000, and I get 500, but they use data, and they see the value in using data. So what we want to emphasize before we get started is don't get caught up in the specifics of the data right now, because we are literally like 2.5 years into the project, and we had to start with collecting data, and then you start to define data, and now we're to the part where we're combing through it and saying, is this total accurate picture of what's happening, and if not, what do we need to do and what tweaks do we need to make? So the first slide is a quick review of where we've come over the last 3 years in just Tier 1 services, and just a refresher course on Tier 1 services. That is all students receive it. So it's setting 5 or fewer behavior expectations. They're typically tied to an acronym so that it's easy for kids to remember. Those are defined in terms of what they look like in the hallways, in the classrooms, in the auditorium, in the cafeteria. Then you reinforce that, and you have a school-wide reward system to reward the positive behavior. You also have a system to deal with behavior that needs additional support. And so we've had a lot of infrastructure that we've had to put in place, and the schools have been very helpful. And as you can see, we've made great progress in every area, all the way from elementary to secondary, in developing that. I would say that I think they're all almost completely Tier 1 implemented at this point. And so we're really proud of the progress that they've made there. In slide 2, or in the next slide, this is office referrals per 100 students at each of the schools. And again, we don't want to get into comparison of school data, but we want to say, oh my word, look, we have data. This is great. Because now schools can say, oh, what does this say about us? And we can also look at it from time of day. They can look at it based on class. Are most of our incidents happening during recess, or in the cafeteria, or in the hall time passing, or they can just dig down deeper and deeper however they want to. So again, year 1, we kind of help define by setting up a flow chart on how to handle and support behavior in the classroom. This year, we've actually taken it to the next level where we've defined the offenses, and the principals were involved in that process. So there's a clear definition of each of the offense codes that are in Educator's Handbook, so that now we can make sure that we're being consistent in how we're rating those ODRs. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is action taken. So one of the things we noticed right off the bat is, so we want to take a look at suspensions and expulsions. One of our goals is to reduce that. I would say that is in line with the board's goals and objectives as well. And so now we can start to say, okay, out of our action taken for office referrals, glasses need to come on, 21% typically end up in in-school suspension, 20% with lunch detention, and 15% with out-of-school suspension. So we feel like that's good data right now. It's not the cleanest, and we'll continue to work on that over the next 2.5 years. But we at least have somewhere to start to say, okay, what does this look like per school now, and what can we do, and look into those specific referrals and see what actually is happening and what they are for, and do it by offense. So any questions so far on the slides? Okay, we'll go to the next slide. These are just additional data points. Like I said, we now can start to ask questions like, is there disproportionality in our referral process? The chart there shows that, out of all students, 30% generally have at least one referral. If you just take the minority population, currently there's about 47 of the minority students who have one referral. And then students with disabilities, 67%. So surfacely, we think, maybe we need to look at what's happening there and see if that's true. I mean, it could be easily explained as, a lot of our special ed population, they look at behavior. I mean, that's something that's been happening. That's part of what they do, is track behavior, and they know how to identify it and track it. And that's simply what we could be seeing there. But we definitely want to take a look, and it's fun to now have the data and be able to look at that on a school-by-school basis. I mean, of course, some of our schools, the minority is the majority, and so that's important to keep in mind as well. Some other things to consider is, this is from all of last year's data, but students with 6+ office referrals, so those chronic offenders, so to speak, is 1.47%, which I think we should pat ourselves on the back. That's good. I think that's lower than we expected. Students chronically absent, and that was defined by 10% or more, was 2%. And again, all of our schools are doing a great job in trying to reduce that with our AmeriCorps program and other check-in, check-out programs. So this is really helping us to go on to the next levels of Tier 2 and Tier 3 implementation, and help define programs to actually target the data that we're seeing. And do we need to target truancy in one school, and maybe we need to target our special education population in the other, and helping give more supports for those students so that we can reduce the number of ODRs. Okay, so if you'll move to the next slide, that is actually showcasing Tier 1. So the blue is Tier 1 progress, and then the orange is Tier 2, and the top layer is Tier 3 services. And the first slide on the left-hand side is last year's data, and then this is this year's data. So you can see the tremendous growth happening at both the elementary, and the next slide will show the secondary. And again, you can see the growth that each school's having. And we really want to thank the teachers, the administrators, everybody there, the parents, the students. As we move to the final slide, I wanted to just end with a quick story. I received a text this weekend from my son who's out at college, and it said, "Hey Mom, I found the song I'm going to sing at your funeral." And I was like, "Oh, all right." So I pulled the song up, and it was a beautiful song, and he and I share a love of music, and it was a tribute to me that I will never forget. It was an opportunity to see what my son would think of me, hopefully in 80 years, not anytime soon, which I had to explain to the 6-year-old. But me at 40, like that alone meant so much to me, and will continue to carry me through my life. And I think back to all the great things we're doing in schools, and the fact that we're trying to be more positive with students, that we're trying to say, hey, one person can truly make a difference. That is what the data says. They need one positive adult at the school. And so really seeing this and knowing that there's more people than just me as a parent doing that for my child, that there's people at the school level doing that. And we're just really impressed with everybody. We thank you for sure for including it in the board goals and making that a priority. That's been extremely helpful. It guides change and the change process. And all of our teachers and our administrators, everybody's been great. Even the students have been highly involved, from the student government to all the additional clubs. And we couldn't do it without our community partners. Julie talked a lot about that, and we have some of them listed there. I hate to start listing them because I know I will leave someone off the list, but we just want to thank everybody. And do you guys have any additional questions for us?
My mic off. You're doing a great job. Thank you. I just had somebody, this is very timely, I just had somebody email me just the other day and ask, what types of programs do you have for mental health in this school? I'm like, turns out we have a list. So I just sent that right on. It was perfect timing. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a court date and we now have keys to the city and a mayor.
Well, we should probably introduce the new mayor of Ophir, Mayor Dalton. Are you here? We say that in jest. We wanted to report last Friday. We had the final hearing. For those of you that don't know this, it's kind of unprecedented, but there's a statute that says that if a small town and municipality is disincorporated, which Ophir went through that vote in November, Ed, was it? That those assets go to the local school district. And it's there as a safeguard to protect small municipalities from getting pressure from the county to fold. And so it's interesting that statute reads that way. And even if we said, no, thank you, we don't want to own a city, we just really didn't have a choice. And so it's kind of like a probate, like a trust, where there's a period of time that Judge Atkins from the 3rd District Court left time for people to file claims, and that time has come and passed, and he basically sealed any future claims. It's not that we are running the city, because we don't know anything about how to run a city. We're educators, and so they really are now an unincorporated area that is served by the county. They're taxed like Stansbury Park, et cetera, and we are now property owners in Ophir Canyon. And so what I've provided for you, the first one, Jim, if you click on that, is a list of the assets. These are the real property. I'm not going to read all of them, but basically the historical district and the town hall and the cemetery and the park and several lots. There's 4 or 5 lots. So you can look here, not the train car caboose. We got further clarification that belongs to an individual family. So, but those cabins are buildings. So the town hall, the storage shed, buildings in the historic district, including the schoolhouse, the shoe shop, the post office, storage shed, restrooms in the historic district, the ballpark, which is the park, pavilion, and with mowers and equipment. We got 1 water right. We're still missing water rights for irrigation. That's a culinary water right. And then there's a page, a list of equipment, et cetera. And then there were, I think I provided to you as well, there were a list of things that were private property by owners that were donated or loaned to the historic district. And we were concerned because these private heirlooms that have been in families for generations, that we didn't want that to walk out or something to happen to them. And so the county worked with us on getting those buildings rekeyed. We literally do have the keys to the city, or at least the former city property. But you know, the roads and the easements and those things the county will take care of, and taxes and those kind of issues. We're basically property owners, and We do intend to use the park as an outdoor learning center, to continue to rent that to the public, but we're going to hold back a few dates in the summer so that, and we're planning on maybe bringing a yurt in and doing some winter rentals. The rentals pay for the operational costs, expenses for that, so it's not going to hit the district's general fund and take money away from schools. And we actually are excited about, gosh, we could have social studies or science camps up there. Student body officers could go up to Ophir Canyon. Debate team could go up to Ophir Canyon and have the FFA team that does a trail ride, et cetera. So we're trying to save several. Most of the time, the outside rentals go Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But Tuesday to Thursday is open a lot of times. So we're going to reserve some time for whether it's board retreats. I know that TATC has talked about maybe using it. As you know, there's what we call the Salt Lake Law, where you can't take a retreat outside of, as a board, outside of your county. This is a great little treasure.
Hey, we've never had a retreat outside the boardroom.
I know, we never have gone to anywhere. So we're just excited about those opportunities. I mean, you can think in the winter, if there was a yurt, I mean, local scout groups could use it. And anyway, so the money to operate that will come from the revenues generated by renting the park. We are working with the Historical Society on a plan to open at certain times the buildings. Now, when I called risk management, I need to let you know that, and they are our insurer, the comment from risk management is you need to tell people that we don't cover personal property. We cover the school property. So one of the first things we had to do is send a letter out and say, we don't intend to move or mess with your stuff, but if you want it here, you have to sign an indemnification where really you're placing that at your own risk. I mean, some of those cabinets, I think they're fairly secure, but, you know, if someone had great-grandfather Brigham's typewriter or something like that that's been in their family forever, we don't want that lost, and we don't want to be sued for that because it's priceless. So we invite those folks, if they want to retrieve their personal property, to do that. If they want to keep it on loan, that's great, but they're doing so at their own risk. We have a partnership with the foundation. Ed and Kendall, who are back there, have a committee. We're working on things like irrigation water, and we have the culinary water. We'll use our departments to do some. We have some folks up there that will pay out of the monies that we get from rental that will be campground hosts, and basically they check in and out and for damage and things like that, and so we'll get it cleaned. It'll be ready and up and ready to go and to rent. There's a 2-year waiting list on many of those evenings and weekends, and we're going to try to still honor that and give some time for kids to have some. There's unlimited possibility around fundraisers and different events, and I can see FFA dinners up there, and our student body officers look for places to go to retreats all the time, and they could do this without, and camp in tents, and we just think it would be a really great thing for our schools to be able to use, and some of their teams and some of their back-to-school retreats for their staff and things like that. So the second page is basically a list from Ed, from that committee, of tasks and areas and things that we need to coordinate. This is new territory for us, so we're moving forward in good faith and trying to determine with you. It's possible that we could have some of those lots that don't have any buildings on them, that we could put those up for sale and go through a proper disposition process. But anyway, it's been quite a learning experience. So, and I think I texted Marisa, no pun intended, but I've got the keys to the city. And anyway, we really feel a weighted responsibility to make sure that we're working with our foundation folks and with the citizens up there who are wonderful. Mayor Schubert and the people up there are just great, and we're going to try to do the best job we can of being good neighbors. Any questions for you?
No. All right. Thank you.
Ed,
Thank you.
would you add anything else? Is it fair? Okay.
Principal Leonelli is here. We have 7.1 mascot and colors for Old Mill Elementary. Do you want to say anything? Yeah, you come up and say.
Of course.
Sing the school
Would you sing
song.
the fight
Have you
song,
written the
please?
school song?
But I guess we'll do a retreat for the Old Mill team building at Ophir. We have students as of the boundaries, and we have staff as of yesterday, and furniture as of tonight. So we'd like to start building our identity and getting our web page and all those things online with the mascot and color selection. So with the help of Mrs. Denson, we started a campaign for doing nominations for the mascot and color selection, and we vetted that out through the district web page, just kind of universally, with the intent of collecting general nominations and then finalizing the final vote by narrowing it down just within the Old Mill community. And so we had 57 respondents from the Facebook page, and then we narrowed that down to the top 5, and the color selections that had multiple nominations were added to that list for the final voting. And so then we sent out an email through Aspire to the students who were featured in that system. And of course, we didn't have all that completely updated at the time. And so we ended up sending it out through Peach Jar to the remaining communities, Stansbury and Rose Springs, to make the final vote. So in total, we had it out there for 2 weeks. We ended up with 48 total nominations or votes on the final selection, with Owls receiving 30 votes, Otters 8, Pioneers 7, and Oxen 3, Muskrats 0. So we don't have to be rodents.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Weird.
Brine shrimp might have been better than that, I don't know, but the cobalt blue and the gray ended up with 42 votes, and the blue for water and the light yellow for wheat ended up with 3 votes. So I guess it would be my motion recommendation that we accept the knowledgeable, wise, magical owls as our mascot, and the cobalt blue, which also symbolizes wisdom, confidence, loyalty, and faith, intelligence, and the gray, which is also standing for wealth of knowledge, and ornate and graceful, elegant as the school colors. I think that the owl symbolizes the barn owl, and I actually saw a picture of one that kind of hangs out at the mill that was shown to me yesterday, and then I felt like the colors identify with Stansbury and kind of for a feeder toward the high school, and so I guess it would be my recommendation, a motion that we adopt the owls in cobalt blue and gray as the school colors.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Can I clarify something?
Yeah.
You said gray, but
It
in the
says
board book
silver,
it says
yeah.
silver.
Yeah, we meant to have it as a gray, so it wasn't quite as sheen on there. So
You're good with gray?
you can see the colors. I don't know if she sent the
Yeah.
Owl, yeah.
Yeah, they're cute.
That's fine.
Okay. Just want what you want.
I move that we approve the owl as the mascot and the colors cobalt blue with gray for Old Mill Elementary.
Second.
It's been moved by Carol and seconded by Alan to approve the owl as the mascot, and this color, cobalt blue with gray, as the colors for Old Mill Elementary. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I think if you're in favor, you should have said, whoo!
Woo. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Go for it. All right, school year calendar 2018-19. Can I just say I'm so excited about having 2 years worth of calendars out there.
Well, we're glad. I'm sure you saw that we sent out a survey to all employees. I don't know what you expect when you send out a survey. I was hoping for more respondents. We had 576 people respond.
A lot.
But we have, 1,700 employees, so that they all had their opportunity. The group, the survey was a regular schedule, not the earlier, not the late start. And so we met as a committee last Thursday and all agreed that that was the calendar that we would bring forward to the board. And our intent as a committee is to keep that going a 2-year cycle in advance, so.
Awesome.
So they'll only need to do one every year, but.
But it will be 2 years out.
It'll be 2 years out.
Okay.
I move that we approve the 2018-19 calendar.
It's been moved by Karen and seconded by Kathy to approve the 2018-19 school year calendar. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank
Next
you.
one is fee schedule.
Next one is you,
So
fee
I'm up
schedule.
again. So again, this year, I sat down with Shauna Gerling and we went through school-based accounts of what these organizations have, and if they had a significant balance just sitting in their accounts, I cut their fees again. I just don't feel like those fees are a bank account, and that if we're not using that money for kids, it shouldn't be sitting there.
I think we agreed with that.
So, so anyway, you'll see that those, there have been several cut. There have been two, excuse me, that have raised. The emergency medicine class, Craig Leonelli does that. He asked that we raise that. He uses a lot of disposable masks and gloves and different things like that, and felt like he wasn't being able to cover that with the $15. And then the state has raised, or the State Athletics Association has raised the amount of money that drill, cheer, flag, all of those can spend from $500 to $600. So the request came in that we match the state spending. So those were the two increases that we put. We didn't make any changes to the fee schedule on the back for summer school until we figure out what we're doing with credit recovery and all of that kind of stuff at this point, whether we need to charge for that or not. So we're going to leave that as is, and if we need to change that, we'll come back. Okay.
Any questions?
I just have a comment. I just actually had a conversation with a parent last night from Stansbury High School that was a little frustrated about, and I perhaps it's just because of the uniforms, but it mentioned that it was costing him $350 plus the $45 registration fee for basketball, and that seemed like a lot to me. And I know that we've talked about this before, and I thought that at one point we made the suggestion that perhaps there should be a disclaimer on there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people see these fees and say, oh, it's going to cost $45 to play basketball or whatever it is, and then find out that there's an additional $350 or such.
We do have that disclaimer on the bottom of
Did I? Oh, did I miss that?
It's not all-inclusive. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The participation fees identified on this page are not all-inclusive of the costs that may
Thank
be
you.
incurred by participating in the activity.
Okay, sorry. I read that and somehow didn't connect. But I guess the only question I have is the conversation with, and maybe it was because there was a turnover with coaches, and so then a new coach was coming in and wanting new uniforms. But does that happen a lot? I guess the question is with.
We've encouraged them to buy a stock uniform. The problem is if they buy custom uniform, and the kids really like those, but then you go back to that same company and 2 years later and you try to get fills for those, for missing and torn and stuff like that, and they don't have them.
Yeah.
And so if they'll stay with a stock, I mean, it's good for Penn State, right? The blue and white, and that's it, you can get those replaced. But when they get the more fancier uniforms that the kids tend to push them for with the, that are cool, the Nike, University of Oregon kind of, flashy, then the problem is having those filled. And so what we've said is, gosh, for basketball, have your home uniform, which is your white, and have your dark uniform, and you don't need 3 sets. You don't need a black one and a blue one. I'm using Stansbury.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you need a light and a dark,
Yeah.
and pick a basic plan and a basic uniform, and then let your play do the talking, not your fancy, duds, so that we can be a little more aware of the pressure that puts on families.
I think also a lot of it is all the extra things they buy, not just the uniform. Even
And
if
that
we,
could-
as a school, buy the uniform, they're buying warm-ups, they're buying,
Right, that's a good
you
point.
know, all their
Extra
shirts and
shoes and-
bags.
The
and-
spirit pack.
Yeah, all of,
I'm
and
still
I'm
I'm
not-
still paying off the cheerleader loan I had to take to have Rachel cheerlead one day.
Right.
I offered her an $800 for a new iPhone if she wouldn't cheer, and she turned me down.
I have to tell you though, on the flip side, as a parent,
I'm
with a child who plays in a stock uniform, it's disgusting. I mean, I don't know how many years they've been using it, but it's utterly disgusting. And at some point, I kind of wish they would not use that because it's disgusting to me.
well, I know I was glad in Grantsville when the parents buy the white pants for softball and they buy the jersey, because by darn, I can't get those white pants clean and I don't want to I'd have to go buy a new pair to turn it back in, feel good about it.
Well, there's a
I'm not
trade-off.
trying to be
There is a
critical. It's
trade-off.
just, I mean, they just mentioned, we have somebody that has 2 boys on the team, and it was $700, and
We've put limits on it so that it doesn't get out of control. I mean, I'm sure, and then there's also, for people who aren't able to do that, there's some waiver money that
Sure.
LARC sends to the schools. So, but it's definitely something that we constantly talk about. We don't want to just keep fundraising and keep changing
Yeah.
uniforms. So.
But thank you for the cuts. That was great.
All right, we need to approve this fee schedule, or not approve it, I guess. Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the fee schedule for 2017-2018.
Okay. Second. It's been moved by Julia and seconded by Karen to approve the 2017-18 fee schedule. Any discussion to the specific motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Steve, we have capital outlay, although I can't really open
I just looked and I
Me
couldn't open
too.
those either.
them. I mean, I read your changes. Yeah, but. And looked at the ones from last time, but is this, we're not approving it.
We're not, we're taking it on for a third reading tonight. But I hadn't tried to open them until just recently, and I didn't get them to open. I thought it was just my iPad.
I couldn't open them last night, and I thought it was just my internet or something, but I can't again. I looked at the ones again from last month and read your changes, but.
And the big thing is the changes, and I did put a cover sheet in to show you the changes. We did take in recommendations and put together and marked anything that could possibly be bond projects. And we marked those in green so we could keep those moving forward. We'd have some ideas as we're looking forward to bond projects. And there's quite a list of them on there if you can.
So that's the one that I would be interested in seeing,
See 'em,
yeah.
just to see them. So I don't know how to get that to open up. Jim, any ideas or?
Just have to have Diane look
See.
at it. It's something, when
Yeah.
you the PDFs work that he sent, but it's
Well, regardless, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Or we don't necessarily need a third reading. We can just keep it out there as a second reading too and keep
Okay.
looking at, whatever you guys,
Yeah.
whatever
That's
motion
true.
somebody would like to make. I think we're good because it's out there. I guess we probably want it as a third reading just because we have the green.
Be aware that the amount went up because we had a couple of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially, the biggest project was probably
The junior high or?
Tooele Junior High sewer lines. Make sure we fix that problem for good, because we have some issues there, as you know, from this year, and we need to fix that, a permanent fix.
Yeah, and it's not an easy fix because the biggest problem and concern in that sewer line's right underneath the office.
They want
8
their
feet
office
down.
fixed anyway.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
8 foot down.
I don't think they like the paneling.
They don't like that, so they may get the office fixed before we're done with all this. We do not have a total final plan of how we're looking at several options of how we're gonna fix that sewer line, but it is gonna be an expensive fix either way. We thought we might try the new process where they're out there to line the sewer lines, and we could do that. You just have to get to everywhere you have a connection, you have to dig that up, and then you can line up both directions from there. So that's one option, but our point of connection is right underneath the office, and it's 8 to 10 feet underneath the office. So that's a pretty good hole to be digging through the office floor, so.
Yeah.
So we're still investigating all the options on that, so.
Okay.
Steve, what about,
Go ahead.
If I,
Yes.
what about there's a pretty costly fire control issue, isn't there?
At Grantsfield Junior High School, we have the fire sprinkler system in the old part of the building. It's an older system, and it's starting to develop several leaks in it. So we do have a number on there to upgrade that system in the proposed budget. And it's pretty costly. It's I think in $400,000 on the top of my head to replace that system.
Oh.
And it was built in the year when they allowed them to do dry systems, and it stays dry until it launches. That's the theory behind it. Well, you have a power outage, the compressor goes out, and it launches, it fills all those lines with water. You never can get all that water out, so it's built up sludge and leaked. If it's full of water all the time, it's never a problem. It's when you get it to the point you start to try to dry it out. So we're developing some leaks, so we're being proactive and want to get that repaired before we totally do it. But that means going in and a complete new system. It's going to have to take out ceilings and put in everything. So it's
work cut out for you.
It's a pretty big project.
Okay. Well,
I,
do you have a
sorry,
comment?
go ahead. I just had a question.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
I was just curious what adding the concrete pad and footings on the north side of the building, for what?
At Grantsfield Junior High School, they had requested a canopy and a pad there. They want an area for the kids to wait for buses that's dry.
Okay.
We thought we'd at least get the concrete in part of it this year and the
Okay.
footings, and then in another year we'd go back and add the canopy to
Okay.
that.
They don't have
I
a
was
place where kids, and they just trample that grass, and it ends up becoming muddy, and it gets tracked into the
Okay,
building.
I
So
just couldn't
it's
remember
really
what that was for.
to take care of, it's more preventative. It's not a huge project. It's concrete between those two wings that are on the north side.
Okay, might I suggest we move it forward for a third reading, but could you, once you get these working, could you either add them to the packet so that they open, or email them to us so we can take a look and make sure that when they're on the website that they do open up? So that
I think I can email them all to you
Okay.
and get them to you. They're not, the only thing that's too big to open would be the pictures, and we did include it back. So everything else I can email to you.
Well, even if, we can live without the pictures if we at least get the
We'll get those
descriptions.
out to you tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to
Approve
approve, what's the,
Capital outlay.
for a third reading.
for a third reading?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Kathy, seconded by Carol to approve the capital outlay for a third reading. 2017-18 capital outlay for a third reading. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that's a sharp looking shirt.
Thank you.
Okay, Joanne and Hal, we have 117 pages of trust fund funds.
Question?
I do have a question.
Okay.
All right.
It's junior high related.
Okay.
Clark Johnson had a lot of carryover, and I couldn't see that there was a reason. Although there could be a reason that I missed.
It could be that when they finished the proposal from last year, they didn't subtract what they had spent. There's one little place that Lark showed them.
Yes, let me just get to that because.
Because it had estimated carryover from 2016, almost $5,000, but then estimated carryover to 2018, 19, $9,000. That's a
Yeah.
lot of carryover.
Yeah, and actually, when I spoke with him, he was going to go in and fix that. That was the carryover wasn't going to be that high. They're looking at buying some Lenovo's and science equipment that would take that down. So I can double check with him on that and make sure that he did get in there and fix that piece. Because they are supposed to be under that 10%.
Yeah, I was like, that's a lot. That was the only question I had.
Okay, yep.
I have a comment.
You better turn
Yes.
your microphone on. There you go.
It's just a comment, and I know that you guys already know this, but so much of the trust lands was put toward salaries for aides. And I mean, I think that is a really wise use of the money, but it's basically free up teachers for PLCs in the elementaries mostly, and even somewhat in the secondaries. So I just think that it's really important that we make sure those PLCs are running the way they should, because I know some of them are running really well, but making sure they're looking at that data and switching up their strategies and things, because we're giving them, we're using most of that money to give them that time to make that work. So that was my only.
That's a good point. Any other questions from anybody after your light reading? Okay. Do you want to say anything? I didn't want to interrupt a speech if you have it prepared.
No.
No, we're good. There was a lot of reading, and we understand that.
And that's why the rubrics were included. For example,
Yeah.
the IPAPA.
Yeah, I liked that.
You know, it was fixed. It has been fixed. I had sent Anna Smith. That's why you have 2 copies for her to go back and fix. She fixed it. So.
Schools are going to be receiving
More money.
more money through
Yes.
SITLA and through the trust, and so.
That's good news. Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the trust lands plans?
I'll make a motion to approve the trust lands for 2017, 2018.
Okay. Second. It's been moved by Julia and seconded by Karen to approve the 2017-18 trust land plans. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Blue Peak Online and My Tech High.
Come down for this one.
That makes it really serious. Okay.
So, we've been talking about Blue Peak and alternate education and adult ed and what's happening in other districts across the state as they look at digital online education. It's certainly not for everybody, but we have some students who, when we offer them an alternate school experience at Blue Peak, who are dropping out of Blue Peak because we don't offer what they want, and they're going over to adult ed. And I mean, we're certainly all in support of the governor's focus on graduation and college and career readiness. But we have some kids who are not really either well-suited or not really interested in a traditional education. And in Utah, we're very proud of being about choice, whether it's charter schools, online schools, or several options. Right now, I think there are 7 districts across the state that have online charters that actually provide educational services for students from other counties from outside of their district. We, for example, Provo has approximately 105 of our students that they receive the WPU for that goes to Provo School District. They actually have 3,600 students in their e-school, and that's directly a result of partnership that they had with My Tech High School. Of course, they have several other vendors and several other options. It really caters to homeschool students and students that are not traditional and maybe are not looking for a traditional diploma. So basically, I got a phone call from Stan Lockhart, a former state board member, and also Senator Stevenson, and then another member, current member of the state board. What's her name, Matt? Lisa Ellis. And they speak very highly of My Tech High. And so I have Matt Bowman here. I'm gonna turn some time in just a minute over to him to talk to you a little bit about it. But this is Matt right here. Matt, school board. So I've had an opportunity to visit with Matt several times. Now let me say, behind the scenes, we have sent administrators. Bryce came to me. He's at the CLC. He and Matt went down to a school that works through Edgenuity, which happens to be kids that do My Tech High have an opportunity to use Edgenuity as well. Edgenuity is the company that bought out Compass Learning, so we've used Compass Learning for our credit recovery. But if you think about it for a minute, if we could bring in additional revenue, we get about $6,000 per student when you add CTE add-on and special ed add-on and that kind of a thing. And the long and short of it is we're recommending, we've talked to parents who from our community are a part of My Tech High. Provo is going in another direction. They have a board member who sells for another online company through Alpine School District, and so they still have kids through My Tech High, but they're doing several other things, and basically Matt has a waiting list of 1,400 students, and maybe even more now. So those 1,400 students are either going to go to Provo or another district, or they could come to us. And we basically, it's a plug-and-play kind of a system. Instead of us developing our own online curriculum, we're using curriculum providers like Edgenuity, like BYU Independent Study, Harmony, Waterford, all those things are available. So, as we've looked at it, we really want to move. Now, there's some of our Blue Peak kids that are going to just go ahead and take Blue Peak High School and really try to get a diploma. There are others that are going through adult ed. Our numbers of adult ed have increased, not of adults, but of 16, 17, 18-year-olds, because they're saying, you're not offering me what I want. I want an opportunity to do some entrepreneurial stuff. I want to work during the day and work on my business, and I want to come to school at night. The school that we visited and we're going again next week, we're going to bring Hal Strain and myself and Dolene are going down there. Matt could talk to that. It was exciting, and Bryce came back and said, man, we're missing the boat. We're offering, in our Blue Peak, we're offering Tooele High Light, is what he said. And some of these kids don't want Tooele High Light. They want either an online experience or maybe some flexible hours where they can do some evenings and weekends and that kind of thing. And we really need to seriously consider how we can do that. This is a way where, back to the earlier discussion, where we can have growth in the district. And we're not only funded on growth through the WPU, but it will, in that partnership, we'll make that a WPU payment to My Tech High. The $400 rough difference just in the WPU is going to come to us. So 1,000 students, that's $400,000. And then, of course, we would argue that it's even more than that because they don't invoice us for anything. We provide special ed services, but we receive the money for the special ed add-on through the December 1st count. So the reality is there are 7 districts doing it, and we're not. We either get in the game or we send our kids from our county to other districts, and we lose the WPU. Our adult ed kids that go to adult ed that are actually school-age kids, why aren't we collecting the WPU? We don't get paid for adult ed very well. So if we gave them what they were looking for, what's exciting for them, that's not to mention the other 400 estimated homeschool students that are in the district taking why don't we offer that here in our county, in our district? So I would suggest, pending legal review, and I have sent this to Patrick, but subject to legal review and approval, that we look at entering an agreement and starting next year, a Blue Peak online is what we're calling it. The advantage of going through Blue Peak is if you were going to run it, say, through Grantsville High School or any other school, kids that don't graduate would be counted against your school grading. Through the alternate school, they're not counted. They don't have the same grading process. So the kids that don't graduate, and of course, we're going to always send kids through the graduation route, but a lot of colleges, including Harvard, including our in-state colleges, are not requiring high school diplomas from students. They want to see, they're as open to non-traditional students now, more so than ever. So I would recommend that we get in that game. As you know, we get billed from the Granite School District, and Provo School District doesn't bill us, but Granite does for property tax of students. There's about 22 students that go over into Granite. This will allow us to consider billing property taxes from those other districts because statute allows that for students that we provide an online education for. So we're really excited. We've got some great plans of what we could do around digital learning that will help set us up not only for blended learning and one-to-one devices and more professional development that will come with that, but this brings in a very rich curriculum that caters and appeals to homeschool students, to non-traditional students like alternate school students. And it's also a way that we can look at credit recovery. We wouldn't do credit recovery right through My Tech High, but our homebound instruction, the instruction that we give at group homes or for the kids that are at a juvenile receiving facility, that could easily be done online. And so I want to let Matt talk to you a little bit about his program and how long they've been in business, and then we'll stand for any questions. So, Matt,
Great.
thanks for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it.
My
Tech High family.
Fan club. Did you bring a fan club?
Yeah. Well, thank you, board, and thank you, Dr. Rogers. It's a pleasure to be here. There's a great vibe in Tooele County School District. When we first sat down, Dr. Rogers and I, we couldn't stop talking for like 2.5 hours. It literally, all kinds of cool initiatives and ideas could come out of this. So, and he said, a couple of you went to the NSBA and went to the digital learning track. So you are a forward-thinking board, and it's an honor to be invited here. I hope we can do a partnership. We could do some really cool things. So quickly on my background, I'm an educator by birth and by trade. My mom was a high school teacher. My dad was a BYU professor. And so I became an elementary teacher. Graduated from BYU in elementary education and taught 6th grade up in Washington State. Got my master's degree there, focused on school choice models, which is this is back in the mid-90s, and so I've been involved with that for a long time. I got a grant to do online education in the classroom in '96. So it's been over 20 years I've been dealing with online education and really know how to make that work well for kids. I've done it in private sector and public sector, and about 8 years ago created My Tech High as a public-private partnership program with Provo School District and a charter school. So we have a partnership with Provo, we have a partnership with a charter school in Cedar City. And just looking at the growth we've had over these 8 years, from 90 kids to almost 3,000 students this year, I look around and I see we have a huge population in the Tooele area. And so it's really interesting, and your bordering areas from Granite and Davis. We have 400 students in Davis County that I think would be interesting opportunity to look at cross-billing some of that. But there's opportunities to serve these students in a very productive way and bring revenue back to the district for them. And so that's what we do, and we serve them hopefully really well. I think they just heard that we were on the agenda tonight, and so they came. That's pretty cool. But we have great families and great programs that serve the individual child, and it's not a one-size-fits-all like most online programs are. And so that's what.
How about a little on Makerspace?
Yeah. That's real, and one of the things that draws me to Tooele also is that we started this year a My Tech High Makerspace in partnership with Thanksgiving Point Institute, where they're doing 3D printers and CNC cutters and vinyl cutters and e-textiles and lathes, and they're then selling that stuff on Etsy. So it's Makerspace meets entrepreneurship, and it's just phenomenal. And our parents in our program, we only had one spot in Lehigh. And they've said, hey, can you expand in other Makerspace classes around the state? So we would look to have a My Tech High Makerspace program somewhere in the Tooele area in partnership, in connection with this partnership. And we can do some really cool things around robots and 3D print design and all that stuff that kids just love. So love to be your partner. So any questions?
Do we have a minimum amount of, I'm looking through the, maybe I didn't see it in the contract. Or do you have a minimum amount of students that you require for us to enroll on the contract?
Nope. You could just say one.
We actually don't enroll them. He brings the enrollment.
We bring them to you.
And then we put them into the Aspire. Let me just.
Yeah.
So we'll put them into Aspire program, and they'll actually be Blue Peak students. Now, one of the things we'd like to do is we'd like to have the Blue Peak High School, but we'd also like to include Blue Peak Online as a K-12, so we're not limited to just high school.
Mm-hmm.
That, and we could find an elementary makerspace at one of our elementary schools or at one of our buildings. We're going to have a building coming open at Harris, which is really intriguing and exciting of that possibility there. and we could do.
I should add that My Tech High is a misnomer. Our average age is 10 of those almost
So they
3,000
started in
students.
secondary, but of the 3,600 students in Provo, and I wish we could get to the graph maybe. I put some of those graphs in there, Matt,
Yeah,
from the
sure.
packet of the growth
Yeah.
that happened in Provo. Would you just
Keep
talk
scrolling
about that
down.
a little
Sure.
bit, Matt?
Right there. So again, we started with just 92 students our first year, and really we don't do any marketing. Our families tell their friends and neighbors, and that's grown like that. It's just been phenomenal to witness, and it kind of overwhelmed Provo during a couple of those years, as you can imagine. But we worked through all that. As Dr. Rogers said, we still have a K-8 program with them. They want to do a pilot with their board members tool in 9-12 next year, and so they're letting the 9-12 stay, but keeping the K-8 in place.
So we would be getting the growth because Provo basically, they're not, I mean, they have a great experience with their program. They're just capping enrollment there and doing something else. And so we would be the benefactor of the growth at My Tech High, and we really share the revenue.
And school lands trust funds would all flow.
The
into
trust
this
lands money
district.
would, instead of having trust lands money at Blue Peak, and I don't know what their trust land is, it would increase by 1,000
students. Yeah, we met with it, yeah.
But we could market, right?
Right, we
We
could
haven't
market.
marketed, but we
We
could.
haven't marketed, I
Right.
think 1,000 is the starting point.
Yeah.
We don't with online education, certainly the capacity for enrollment. Provo's
we would
listed
do
at
joint-
18,000 right now, but they don't have 18,000 brick and mortar students.
Right.
They've got more like we do, 15,000 with 3,000 online. So they get it and are on board earlier than we are, and I'd like us to get on board and move in this direction. I think it's a good partnership. It came very well recommended from families that I called. I talked to Provo School District, not Greg Hudnall, but
Gary Wilson.
Gary, and they're really happy with that partnership. So
We need a motion.
Yeah, unless there are other questions, I'd be looking for a motion.
Well, I'd make a motion that we get on board and play the game.
Okay.
I think the motion would be
wanna-
authorize Superintendent Rogers to sign the
By
agreement.
authorizing the superintendent to
Yeah, by
follow
authorizing
through? Okay.
superintendent to do it.
we plan to have it in place by this year.
Start the process tomorrow.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's moved by Kathy, seconded by Julia to get in the game and authorize the superintendent to sign an agreement with My Tech High.
I didn't want to start playing right away.
Any discussion to the motion?
Motion is not tell the superintendent to get in the game.
No, it was specifically, I think, the online game. Yeah. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Perfect, thank you. Look forward to the partnership.
Thank you.
Okay, revised policy 4014, employee leave for implementation this time. Lark or Terry, did you have any more words of wisdom?
Okay, I was double checking, getting the sign there. No, we haven't made any changes. The two items that were brought up last time, we have discussed them, but if you want to go into detail, give you those discussions. We just haven't found a good way to put them in the policy. Like I said, going back to the original one, the intent was just the items that were changed there.
Okay.
And we haven't, per my knowledge, received any other comments
I didn't get
on
any.
this, so.
Anybody want to make a motion to implement this program, this policy?
I move that we, sorry, thought I had it on. I move that we approve policy 4014, employee leave for implementation.
Is there a second? I'll second. It's been moved by Carol, seconded by Karen to approve policy 4014, employee leave for implementation. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lark. Revised policy 6009, grounds for mandatory suspension or expulsion. Mr. Strain.
All right. So we were looking at this policy because we do have some look-alike weapons that that are used in programs that we run. One example of that is in our criminal justice classes. We were issued an orange gun that it's a look-alike gun. We were issued it by USOE to be used in competitions for criminal justice. It's very similar to guns that are used in trainings for law enforcement, criminal justice students in college. It's a requirement of the Skills USA competition for these students to use this look-alike gun, which our students do very, very well. Our students have taken first place, I think, the last 2 years. Is Marianne here?
She was. I think she's
Okay. So anyway, we've got that. We also have some drill teams that use the wooden blanks that are shaped like a little bit like a
the
rifle.
rifle.
And so we wanted to address, those lookalikes and do it in a way that didn't harm our students and their endeavors, but also gave us some control over what was happening. And so that's why the language is in there the way it is. So any questions on that?
I would just add, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
We also had a student, if you'll remember, I think it was one of your students that, debate student that's also involved in ROTC, and, what is the STAR program? Anyway, they're really taught that when they are posting colors that they should have someone armed, or at least something that a look-alike. And they were talking about swords, and we didn't really want to go down with, metal look-alike swords, but the blanks would work for the ROTC training program, and they were already being used in the district by drill teams. And as long as we're reasonable about it, it's an integral part of posting colors and showing respect to the nation's flag. We certainly don't want to alarm people, but those clearly identified lookalikes. Other lookalikes would be, of course, not permitted on campus, but we would keep these in secured places in the school so that they weren't coming back and forth out of someone's car or hanging in the back window, and someone calls and says, I just saw a gun going into the school, kind of a thing. So we would try to be as responsible with that as possible. I don't know where the drill team keeps their equipment right now, but I think the stallionettes, and I think they all use flags.
Yeah, in their locker. Yeah. Yep. So we wanted to make sure that they had those opportunities, but at the same time, we wanted the administration of the school to be aware of their use, and then we also wanted to make sure that the use was happening within the presence of the advisor or the coach for that group.
I'm not making a motion quite yet. Is that okay?
It's okay, because I had a question, so I was going to say, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to focus just a little bit on the language.
Okay.
Maybe you have the same question I have.
Oh,
Go ahead.
maybe. That'd be exciting. In item 1, weapons may include, but not be limited to. I think, my sense is it would make more sense to say, but are not limited to.
Okay.
And then the last clause, or anything that may place any persons in imminent danger, is kind of remarkably broad, I guess. I just wonder if it would be a little more helpful to say, like, or any related item, or that kind of ties it back to the list we have and doesn't include textbooks or,
Yeah, absolutely. I actually took this language. I think this is language from Granite School District. I'm not positive. It may be Davis. I did go around and looked. I couldn't find any district that had a policy that I could find that said, lookalikes are okay in these circumstances. that's what I was looking for.
Mhm.
But the weapons piece, yeah, that
There
I-
were
that
examples
was-
from
there were
other
examples, and that is
policies.
word for word from another policy, and yeah, I can absolutely fix that.
You know, a car could fit the definition of anything that could
Yeah.
potentially be
Yeah.
life-threatening, right? I mean,
Right.
It makes sense to me to try and tie it back to what we're really focused on, but that's just law school stuff coming out. So.
No, and I understand that, and I think what they were going at with this was really, we don't want to say that a book is a weapon, but if
Yeah.
a student uses that as a weapon, we do want
Right.
to say this is a mandatory suspension because you did use a book as a weapon. So
Well, and that's fine, except B says that it's the possession, or at least the way I read it is that it's the possession rather than the use in a dangerous manner or something, and so, I don't know, just trying to be careful about it, but,
absolutely.
okay, thanks.
Not my
Go
same
ahead.
question.
All right.
I know, I have more. Okay, I know that first of all, it says a student shall be suspended or expelled for the following reasons, and they're great, but E is not really a reason, it's kind of the consequence, I guess. So does it need to be lettered, or should it be kind of its own, this is a consequence
Yes.
kind of thing?
Yep. So move E to,
Just its own paragraph, maybe?
Okay, yep.
More like a student shall be, and I don't know.
Yep.
And then also, I know in E it says a student who commits a violation of the section involving a real, lookalike, or pretend firearm. But in B, it doesn't really have real in there. Do we need to say weapon, either pretend or real? Because
Yes.
don't we want to include real weapons?
Yep.
Good point.
No, just pretend weapons.
I mean, it's kind of implied, but maybe should be stated.
there are other districts that even if there's a threat and the person doesn't have a weapon on them, if they threaten to use a weapon, it's grounds for, I mean, I don't want to be too, it's a real tough policy to write because there's always loopholes that people are going to argue, but if you even threaten to, I'm going to bring a knife, that's a serious.
Maybe we should include that in the second reading.
I guess it's up to us.
I think we definitely need real and
Yeah.
pretend, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are my only
All right.
thoughts. Okay, so we need to probably move it forward for another reading. Anyone game for that?
I move, good try, Kathy. I move that we approve revision to policy 6009, grounds for mandatory suspension or expulsion, forward for a second reading.
I'll second. Okay, it's been moved by Alan and seconded by Kathy to approve revisions to policy 6009, grounds for mandatory suspension or expulsion forward for a second reading. Any discussion of that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new policy on nepotism. Superintendent.
Well, just briefly, and we would just recommend we hold it over for another reading and get input. But we had a couple of problems this year with, we certainly don't have a concern about, we're a small community and we have family members and things like that are hired by the district. That's not the issue. The issue is there's a couple of prohibited, there's a couple of exceptions that are listed in this policy. This is taken straight from USBE. The two things that you can't waive, that the superintendent can't waive, is you can't supervise a relative and you can't recommend a pay increase. And we had a couple of schools where we had some questions about that. It also tells you what the normal exceptions are if you're in a small community like Dugway and Wendover, where these questions actually came up this time. So when we had those questions come into me, I asked Diane and I tried to type up nepotism assuming that we had a policy. And when you type up nepotism, we don't have a policy. So I immediately contacted legal counsel and I said, is there a model policy? And he said, yeah. He sent it to me. This is it, including the Utah Code. It talks about the superintendent being able to, if it meets certain conditions, basically waive that with the exception of those two conditions, which is you can't supervise directly. So what we've told principals, at a high school, it's fairly easy if you have a couple there to have one principal supervise one person and another. It presents a potential conflict of interest if a principal does corrective action with one spouse and he supervises another. So in the high school, it's fairly easy because you have two other administrators that can, you cover this person and you cover this person. When you have one principal, it's a little more difficult, but there's workarounds. We can assign that person to be supervised by a district employee. I know that and I asked him for permission, I know that when Mr. Ham was at Grantsville Elementary, his wife taught there. And that was fine. She was a great teacher and he was a great principal, but you're not permitted under statute to supervise or evaluate your spouse or immediate family members or even people that live with you. And so is kind of the broader definition. And so what we did on that one, the first year I was here, I did that evaluation as the elementary director, and then I think the second year, I think Joanne did that. And so we can assign additional people to do that, but we just need to have some guidelines. We had principals saying from Dugway and Wendover, what guidelines can you give us on what we can hire and what we can't? We had a few allegations that things weren't working and that people were being supervised by their mother or their spouse or whatever directly, and that would be an appropriate conflict of interest. So I would just say let's hold it as a first reading and get some feedback on it. It's not really going to impact us hugely as far as the hiring process and how we have people placed, but it will give principals guidelines so that they don't put people in a kitchen situation where you have a kitchen manager supervising or a custodian supervising an adult sweeper that is their family member. That would not be appropriate.
Okay, so we need to move it forward for a second reading. Anyone?
I'll make a motion. Excuse me. To move the nepotism policy forward for a second reading.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Julia, seconded by Kathy to approve the new policy regarding nepotism for a second reading. Any discussion to that motion? Yeah?
Go ahead.
I have one question. Superintendent, help me understand why there's exceptions for compensated for funds from vocational training and all of these. Why vocational training? Why is that carved out?
I don't know other than that's in the code. But I can follow up.
So it is in code?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. The second
I'm not sure the justification of the reasoning for that, but.
The second thing, my observation is that there's the limited exceptions for towns. I would think that doesn't apply since we're not a community. I mean, we own Ophir, but we're not the town of Ophir anymore. So it would seem like to me that paragraph would not apply to this. Just that one sentence, I guess, actually.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we could probably take that out.
Yeah, we could delete that one. Let's.
Ellen?
Which one is that?
It just says limited exception for towns.
And since we're not a town, that's.
Yeah, and that I think came from because they just copied this from the statute.
Yeah, if we just take that out before.
So that's a good catch.
Ellen?
I wanted to get the superintendent's understanding and make sure I was understanding this the right way. So if we had a situation where we had a principal where the principal's spouse was going to be hired as a teacher at that school, we couldn't do that unless one of these 5 exceptions, one of which is that you, superintendent, made the determination that that person was the best person available.
Well, and the other workaround is, and not a workaround, but the other exception is if we don't, the real two pieces are the recommending for raises and the direct supervision. So in my mind, if they're not directly supervising that person, that's why it's easier at the high school, because you got other administrators that can do that evaluation. It's pretty hard if I'm the administrator and you and your wife work for me and I evaluate you fairly, but it's a poor evaluation. That really does put a potential conflict of interest with my relationship with your spouse. So the safest practice is we should hire, I mean, they're great people, but we should look at different assignments, different building assignments if we're going to do that, just so that we can avoid that. But there are ways to still do that. We have at just about every building, we have some, relation. We're a small community and we value that. But we just need to be careful that we're not crossing the line. And really, we had no lines. We had no current policy or guidelines.
Yeah.
So, does that help, Alan?
That does.
So, I think we need to be as liberal with interpretation as possible to make things work for our kids. And really, it should be about hiring the best qualified person, not, irregardless of those other factors, who's best qualified. So,
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Just 2 reminders before we adjourn. We do have a work meeting on April 25th. Don't forget. Diane does need to know who's going to what graduations by then. And then Steve already sent the capital to us, so you have it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks for coming.
The work meeting's still at 6,
Doesn't
right?
Diane need 2 motions, a second on those?
Oh,
Showing
just
you a
put
motion.
me.
Well, settle down, Lark. Come on.
You can keep it in your collection, or we'll give it to Diane.
She
Add to
needs that
hers.
with the.
Okay, will do.
As who led that? Who did she talk to then? Yeah.